as she hugged her knees close to her chest and tried to hide herself in the shadows of the dreary basement. She had just come to, having no idea exactly how long she'd been unconscious. For a second there, she'd forgotten about what had taken place just moments before she blacked out. But when she looked down at her body, she was quickly reminded. She looked around the room, her eyes darting from one corner to the next, almost as if she was on drugs, but drugs were a thing of the past. She had been drug-free for a long time. Although no one appeared to be in the room with her, she could feel eyes burning through her. After a few more moments of scanning the basement, she finally spotted what she could sense was there, the eye of a camera. She could see the tiny red blink of a camcorder in the upper corner of the room. Once again, she felt violated. She reached out in an attempt to grab something to cover herself, but nothing was there. She had no choice but to resume her earlier position, knees to her chest, and arms curled around her legs as she rocked slowly. A sharp pain forced her to let out a gasp. That's when she recalled that she'd been bleeding ever since Bugs had violated her, and now she feared for her baby's life. She buried her face between her knees as tears fell from her eyes. She didn't want whoever was watching her to be empowered by her tears, so she felt the need to hide them. She couldn't help but wonder if anybody had been watching her while she was being raped. Who had sat in front of the monitor and witnessed the horrible act without intervening? What type of person could do something like that? Whoever it was, she hated them. Their voyeuristic sin was cruel, and she was desperate for an escape. Suddenly, Halleigh got a flashback and lifted her head. In the split second between her being snatched from the shower and the cloth being put over her nose and mouth, she looked into the bathroom mirror and saw something. Someone familiar. Mitch. The word fell off her tongue as she realized that all of this was possibly his doing. "I need to see Mitch," she whispered to herself. If Mitch was behind this entire thing, she knew she had a chance to survive after all. As far as Halleigh knew, she'd never done anything to Mitch to prompt him to do something like this to her, so she could only assume that this had nothing to do with her at all, but everything to do with him and Malek. She didn't know what had sparked the beef between them, but she did know that Mitch had been sweet on her at one point. She was hoping he still was. If so, perhaps she could use it to her advantage. She knew that his attraction toward her was probably the only way she could ever get out of the situation alive, and she was willing to do whatever she had to do in order to ensure her baby's safety. "Where are you, Malek?" Trembling with fear, her eyes darted frantically around the room. She didn't know what to expect next. It had been a full 24 hours since she had been given any food. She hadn't seen another face besides Bugs. The thought crossed her mind that now that Bugs had gotten what he wanted from her, and she could identify him, she would be left for dead. She shook her head in an attempt to erase those dreadful thoughts. She hoped and prayed that Bugs was gone for good, but that someone else would come to see about her. Bugs wasn't in this alone, she knew that much. There had to be someone else assigned to keep guard over her, but who? Maybe her eyes had deceived her. Maybe it wasn't Mitch she had seen before blacking out. She closed her eyes and ran the scene through her mind. The scene had happened so quickly. She visualized the shadowy figure that stood off to the side, and unless her mind was deceiving her, it was indeed Mitch. Opening her eyes, Halleigh wished to God this had all been just a bad dream, but the fact remained. She was still being held hostage. The torment of being locked in the basement reminded Halleigh of when Manolo had imprisoned her in his basement for weeks. It had been sheer torture, and she truly believed that a part of her had been forever locked in that basement. When she was finally released, she was a partial image of the person she used to be. She could only wonder what kind of emotions this time would bring upon her. How much of her soul would she leave behind this time, if she made it out at all? Everything in Halleigh just wanted to get up, go beat on that door, and cry out for help, but she was all out of screams. There was no fight left in her. All she really wanted to do was just go home. She would do anything to be back home, safe and sound in her bed next to her man. She closed her eyes once again, and instantly Malek's face appeared behind her lids. Her heartbeat began to speed up as she thought about the possibility of never...